Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the North American Association of Cerebral Palsy Advocates Chatline. I am Caleb Wells, the founder and chairman of the North American Association of Cerebral Palsy Advocates, and I am joined again today by my partner in crime, Tanner Lynn. How are you today, Tanner?
I'm doing great.
That's great. So we wanted to come on here. We were kind of talking before we logged on about doing another episode about summer and summer plans and things along those lines. So, Tanner, I'm going to throw this to you first and let you kind of talk about what you want to talk about.
All right, so um as a um when 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 my summer usually starts, um I usually get together with family that I haven't seen for a while, and then um we have have I get together for about 2 to 3 days. But this year, me and a couple of my cousins and aunt and uncle are going in the next couple weeks to a campground in Tennessee, which is probably actually one of the most accessible campgrounds I've seen in a while. All the sites are paved in, so that there's not a bunch of gravel in my tires and whatnot. So it's gonna be an interesting trip. And then I get to have surgery, so that's gonna be great.
Well, we're not going to focus on the surgery thing, and we're still going to be creating content. Brittany has so graciously said she was going to help us out and guest host a few episodes while you're out of commission here.
The podcast is not going anywhere. I'm just gonna be
We're
off.
we're not going on hiatus. We're still going to be here. We're still going to be creating content and doing what we enjoy to do. So, how did you find this campground? Let's start there.
Well, we my my parents were just searching one day, and they're like, "We've never been to this part of Tennessee, so let's just check it out." And it was just like we went uh 2 years ago, and then um when you walk around, it's all open area, and so it's very cool to see, because not many campgrounds have the have the ability to be accessible.
So, where in Tennessee is this place? I'm curious for my
By,
own.
by Pigeon Forge.
Oh, so over by Dollywood.
Yep. Yes.
We don't really know anybody over in that neck of the woods. So, uh, that's cool. So, your family camps a lot, right?
Yes.
Do you find it difficult to camp with cerebral palsy?
Yes. Um, depending on um,
I didn't know if Tim.
depending on the depending on the campground, if it's easy to get my chair around, or even for my family to physically handle me while we're at the campground.
That
It,
makes sense. Oh, did you freeze? You good?
Oh, I'm here.
All right. So I wanted to bring that up when you're making travel accommodations in this space with a physical disability. And I learned the other day actually Airbnb has an accessibility tab on their app.
Yes, they do.
So shout out to Airbnb for being on the forefront of making sure that travel is accessible and open to everyone who wants to travel, because it's not easy when you have cerebral palsy to travel.
No.
I was a person who I was traveling every week for work, and it gets exhausting for anybody. And then you add on top of that the wheelchair and the long flights, the this, that, and the other thing, the fact that you don't know if your chair is going to be broken when you show up to
Yep.
a destination. So I encourage everyone to travel. This is going to be a shameless plug for someone that does a really great job in that sense. But John Morris, who runs a website called wheelchairtravel.org, and I'll drop that into the description. He has some great tips about how to deal with those things, and he has a question and answer column that he does monthly. I think it's monthly, that he'll take emails and answer any travel questions that you would have. So it is important, though, from the standpoint, as we've talked about on the show before, that we need to be well-rounded people, and we look at our lives as a triangle where we have our physical health, our mental health, and then our emotional and social health. I think travel, especially traveling with your family, is important to have, and it's important to become well-rounded in that space as someone who has that emotional social health. But we understand that it can get taxing, and we are trying to find ways to better all of all of that as a whole. And there had been great progress. There's great progress that has been made in that situation over the last 15 to 20 years. So we always said in my family that the best classroom is the world. And I firmly believe that you get to go see different cultures, you get to be a part of different things. And also, from my perspective, is it shows different parts of the country that do accessibility differently. So, and I think we've talked about this before, Tanner. I know we haven't mentioned it on the show, but I know we've talked about it just in conversation about, if you look at the concentration of communities of people with physical disabilities, they are all around big medical campuses. So we look at places like Berkeley, California, where UC Berkeley is located, Washington, D.C., where the VA is located, and Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, and Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Minnesota in general with the Mayo Clinic and Gillette and all that. And even here in St. Louis with the hospitals that we have here in town. And those are the places that have really come full circle in terms of making travel and outdoor activity accessible. I know the state of Minnesota last year rolled out a program that in all of their state parks for electric wheelchair users, they have these big four-wheelers. And I'm sorry, because this is audio, to kind of explain what these are. They're big, like triangle tires that go on the side of the wheelchair and can go off-road, back into wooded areas, back towards the lake, onto the beach, things like that. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina has rolled out a similar program over the last couple of years. So if you're looking to travel and you do use a wheelchair and you have cerebral palsy or any disability, because like we said last week, this is not just necessarily a cerebral palsy focused podcast. Yes, we both have cerebral palsy. That's what we do. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that everyone has those opportunities. So it's great that the Minnesota State Department of Parks and Recreation has rolled out that program. Myrtle Beach has started to roll out that program because it really does change an outlook, and you can make those summer memories, right?
Yes, and without access to these places, it would be very difficult. But thanks to the Minnesota Parks and other states, it's allowing people to enjoy their summer and not just sit at home and wonder what they can do. Get out and enjoy it.
And I think that takes us to a great time to talk about our partners over at Giraffe Bottle, because we have been talking about summer and how it's approaching, and the rising temperatures are here across the country, which means hydration is more important than ever. And with the Giraffe Bottle hands-free drinking system, it's an easy way to stay hydrated on the go. Beat the heat this summer and purchase a Giraffe Bottle Tower Bundle starting at $57 at giraffebottle.com. That's giraffe, like the animal, bottle.com. The Tower Bundle includes a 24-ounce Giraffe bottle with a stainless steel wheelchair mount and a 15-inch neck straw. The Giraffe Bottle assistive hydration technology is designed to be flexible and easy to use for people of all abilities, with accessories to mount wherever needed. Giraffe Bottle solutions are great for wheelchairs, desks, walkers, beds, tables, and more. It is great for that hands-free hydration on the go, allowing us to make those summer memories without the stress of dealing with traditional water bottle systems. For free shipping on all orders over $100 at giraffebottle.com. Once again, that's giraffe, like the animal, bottle.com. Free shipping on all orders over $100. Thank you to Giraffe Bottle for sponsoring the Chatline. I know I stuck that one in there, but I think that it flowed well into what we were talking about. And I know in my situation, in my family, that's what we talk about a lot, are the memories that we've made in the summer. And again, my family was very conscious of all of that, making sure that we were going places that were accessible and not necessarily super overstimulating as well.
Absolutely.
And I think when we talk about this, we would be remiss not to mention people with the stimulation overload and the intellectual disabilities and developmental disabilities that can make travel even more difficult for those people. And there are places now across the country that are being able to do those things, and with the help of programs like the Hidden Sunflower program, the sensory rooms. I just saw today the Silver Dollar City down in Branson, Missouri, which Branson is basically Vegas if it was built by Ned Flanders. I think it's the best way to explain what Branson is for those of you that aren't in this area. But it's in southern Missouri. They have a theme park there called Silver Dollar City, and they've done a great job with their diversity, equity, and inclusion for people with intellectual disabilities, developmental disabilities, and physical disabilities. So I think that is really cool. Cedar Entertainment. This is, and none of these places are sponsored, by the way. It's just things that are coming off the top of my head. But Cedar Point in Ohio has started a new disability initiative. And with all this progress that's being made and all the things that we are able to see, especially in the theme park industry, it's opened people's eyes to do things that are not necessarily moral. I was talking to someone just recently about this, where there would be families that had disposable income that would go to Disney World and hire a person in a wheelchair for like $100 a day or $200 a day so that they didn't have to stand in line.
Wow.
Did you see this article? This article surfaced about 2 years ago.
I believe I did see this and yeah.
And there were people that were taking advantage of the system. So I will give credit to where credit is due with places like Six Flags and Cedar Point and Disney and Silver Dollar City. They've really gone above and beyond to make sure that people are not abusing that, so it is used for the people that need it. So now when you apply for one of the ADA cards, you have to put in your proof of disability and things like that. So we're making progress, but with one step forward, one step back at some points with that. I love theme parks. Theme parks are one of my favorite things on the planet. So it's really disheartening to hear that people are taking advantage of those systems.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's not fair to those of us who need it. So just don't take advantage, please, people. It's
I feel bad for mentioning it in this space, but again, we have very candid conversations, and now that there are safeguards in place, I feel comfortable speaking on that. But it does create another hoop to jump through, but it's not only to protect the park and the employees that work at the park, so they don't have to ask those questions, because it's also protecting their guest, because you no longer have to think that, oh, if you have an ADA card, you're not just faking this, or you know what I mean.
yeah.
So
Yep.
I appreciate that. Uh, I really appreciate those people, and I really appreciate that we are being able to have these conversations, and because nobody wants to stand in line, right? No normal person wants to stand in line,
No.
but it is really hard for those individuals that get overly stimulated to stand in a line.
Yeah.
And it's also not fair to them, because I've heard this argument too. Why are you taking your kids with autism to Disney World? Like,
Yeah.
that's a ridiculous argument in of itself.
It is ridiculous. They should be able to go to like anybody else.
Exactly. And I appreciate organizations like Make-A-Wish that give opportunities for families of kids that are disabled and terminally ill to experience those things that they wouldn't normally experience, because their life is spent in and out of the hospital, or their life is spent just trying to get from day to day to day. And I think it really ties in well with our quote of the day from Michigan head football coach, Jim Harbaugh, who said he was talking about the kids that he recruits to their program. And he said, I want kids that'll come in and young men that'll attack every day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. And I think that's kind of how we as disabled people have to look at it. We have to attack every day with enthusiasm. And
Yes.
it's really exciting for us to be able to experience those things. And it's also really shitty, excuse my language, that people are trying to take that away from us because they're just trying to get a free handout.
Yep.
And it goes back to what we were talking about last week with being curious and not judgmental. You should be curious. You should always ask questions. But it's not your space to judge how we live our lives, how parents are raising their children. It really should be able to open up a conversation.
Yes.
And really go full force into, oh, this is what it is. We're kids too. We're adults too. We want to be able to experience those things. And it's not fair. I mean, life's not fair, but it is extremely unfair to just judge someone on the surface of what it is.
Yes. And with that being said, we would like to thank you for listening to this episode. And again, keep listening. And if you're on Spotify, go ahead and hit that follow button so you don't miss an episode, and leave a review for us if you're enjoying this podcast, so that our podcast can be seen by thousands of people that we don't even know exist yet. But we really appreciate everybody's honest review about this podcast. We hope that it brings light to your week.
Yes, and if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Ring that notification bell to never miss an episode. Thank you to the people over at Giraffe Bottle for helping us out and really giving us an opportunity to be on this platform. As well, if you want to get in contact with us, you can always email us at NAACPAchair@gmail.com. That's NAACPA chair@gmail.com. And once again, thank you for joining us wherever you're joining us, however you're joining us. Thank you for making us part of your week, and we will see you in the next episode.